So welcome everyone to our monthly webinar. My name is Stephanie Licata. I'm the Senior Learning Strategist with Cloverleaf, and I'm excited to be here today with you to lead you in a conversation around transforming teams and how you can really creatively and strategically use some of the assessments on our team dashboard. Jason, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone. I'm Jason Miller. I have interacted with a bunch of you. I am Cloverleaf's support team in addition to managing some of our higher ed clients and mid-sized businesses. I have taken a liking to doing these webinars and enjoy the interactions I get to see from everybody. So welcome to today's webinar, and very much looking forward to seeing everybody's reactions, and hopefully y'all enjoy it.
Excellent. So if you're just joining us, we're going to pop the resource in the chat. I'm going to share my screen so that you all can see. And so the resource that your resource has more information than my slides. So my slides are just to help mark the time for me, but your resource, Transform Your Team's Strategic Use of Cloverleaf's Dashboard and Assessments. That is where you want to be. We're going to be talking about, we obviously don't have time to talk in depth about every single assessment. So I chose a number of assessments that we could use to really fulfill a wide variety of assessment lenses. And then we're going to share some scenarios that you can use some of these assessments on the team dashboard, some conversations you can stir up, some scenarios where you might want to use these assessments to have intentional conversations with your teams. So we're going to talk about the strategic use of Cloverleaf's dashboard and assessments. So for our agenda today, we're going to do a quick poll in a minute just to find out who's here with us. Then I'm going to just make sure that you know about an amazing new feature on our dashboard, which is called Coaching Focus. And this is super helpful to focus some of your daily coaching tips. Then we're going to do a high-level overview of 16 types and how you can use it in specific scenarios with your team. We'll do the same thing with DISC, Enneagram. I'm going to talk about Clifton strengths and bias strengths overview and team application. We'll talk a little bit about instinctive drives. Then we'll talk about our next webinar, Q&A, and feedback. So first, we're going to do a poll just to see who is here with us. If you could let us know what title most describes you, best describes you. Are you a senior or C-suite talent or learning leader? Are you a director or manager level talent or learning leader? Are you a manager of a team? And maybe your team's on Cloverleaf. Are you an individual contributor who's on Cloverleaf? Or are you one of our partners, a coach or consultant who's sharing Cloverleaf with your clients? So let us know what best describes your role. Right, we're getting in there. We're at 75%, 77%. We can get to 85%. I know we can. If you're out there, you need to just answer our poll, give us a little bit of a quick click, and then we know who's here with us. We're almost at 85%. We're at 83%, 84%. I know we can get to 85%. How do we go down in percentage? How does that work?
I think
take over.
someone joined.
Okay. We just keep getting more popular. Okay. All right, excellent. We're at 83%. I think that's good. So maybe you want to just end the poll and share it with us. So we have our largest percentage of folks, almost a tie, managers and individual contributors, followed by directors and managers, and coach and consultants, and our senior C-suite talent learning leader. Well, thank you so much for letting us know that. We greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much again for being here. We know your time is valuable. So in case you haven't done this already, we want to share with you a really important feature that really helps to customize your Cloverleaf experience. And so I'm going to hop on the main dashboard of Cloverleaf, and I'd like to point out this area right here on your dashboard. Now, in order to select a coaching focus, and when we say coaching focus, what that means that around at least once a week, the tip you receive in your email and also in your daily coaching experience will be related to this coaching focus. And so the first thing you have to do in order to pick a coaching focus is select your role. So if you see this little pencil right here, you're going to click on that little pencil, and then you're going to come over here and you're going to select your role, and then you're going to save. And then you're going to go back to your dashboard, and where it says coaching focus, right, you are going to select one of the options in your category. So maybe I want to focus on managing change. That's what I want. And I can change my coaching focus at any time. And when I do my daily coaching, if the tip is related to my coaching focus, you're going to see this little bullseye icon. You're going to see it right here, and it's going to let you know, hey, this is related to your coaching focus. So you'll see that in your daily coaching reflections and your daily coaching emails. So I highly recommend, if you are a leader that has a team on Cloverleaf, that you invite your entire team to select a coaching focus, select an area that they want to receive development on. I think it's also a great idea to, at the beginning of the month, invite your team. Hey, do you want to keep your coaching focus, or would you like to change your coaching focus? This also can give you a little bit of fodder for some of your one-on-one conversations and a development-related conversation. So I know that you've chosen XYZ as your coaching focus. Can you share more about that with me? A little bit about how you want to develop that within your own professional development. So Jason has also shared in the chat a little document on coaching focus. So if you want to go grab that for your own reference, it's just another way to include more personalization into your use of Cloverleaf and to really help you develop in the areas that you want to. So again, if you're leading people who are on Cloverleaf that are not on this webinar today, I highly recommend that you invite people to select that coaching focus. All right, great. So we are going to dive right in. In our last webinar, we went through all of your feedback, and there was a lot of requests for a little bit more information on the assessments and how we can use them specifically with our team. So there was like different types of feedback that were all kind of saying the same thing. So Jason and I really like sat with it. We actually took all the feedback and we put it into ChatGPT, and we said, how can we create a webinar that caters to all these needs? So we analyze your feedback, and we're like, how can we create this learning experience and how we combine all these topics? So it really is helpful to give us that feedback, because we actually do use it to design every single learning experience that we give to you. Okay, so we're first going to talk about 16 types. Now, if you're a visual person and you want to be looking at your team's 16 types, if that's what you want to do, if that's how you learn and it helps you to understand information, you might want to log into your team dashboard, right? So we're going to be talking a little bit about 16 types first. And I'm also going to be talking about it in the context of how you can apply it specifically to your teams. Okay, so a little bit about 16 types in terms of where it came from, right? So 16 types was created in the field of psychology, right? It wasn't necessarily originally designed as a business assessment. It's focused on personal preferences. If a person knows their 16 types results, you know what type of tasks you might be good at, but you might not know how to work on those tasks alongside others. So 16 types boils down personalities down to a matter of our preferences. It does not measure traits, ability, or character. Okay, we're not measuring traits, we're not measuring ability, we're not measuring competency. The results describe a person's nature, right? And it suggests that a person's nature guides our interactions and our perceptions of the world. So it answers a couple of questions. How does the person interact with the world, right? Do they gain energy from being alone, introversion, or do they gain energy from being with others, extroversion? How do they process information? So the second letter of your 16 types results will tell you how that person processes information. Do they lean more towards sensing, which is paying attention to details and logic, or more intuition? Are they paying attention more to the big picture? So it's kind of like if you're in a team conversation and all of a sudden someone pipes up and sort of ties all the dots together and paints a picture, that person's likely an N on 16 types. How does this person make decisions? The third letter in your 16 types answers that question. Are they going to lean more towards their head thinking or more towards their heart feeling? So it doesn't mean that people who are T's don't have a heart, and it doesn't mean that people who are F's don't think, right? It just means the tendency to make a decision is to rely on logic versus maybe feelings, compassion, or empathy. How does this person require structure? Are they leaning towards more judging, which means they like structure? Now, remember, I'm a J. J's not only prefer structure, we prefer our own structure as opposed to someone else's structure as well. So, are they more, do they prefer structure, or do they prefer a little bit more fluidity? Are they more perceiving? They like a little bit of sort of spontaneous or nature, or they like to be adaptable. They like to not feel confined by structure. So what does this mean? So knowing 116 types or MBTI, some of you may relate to this as MBTI, knowing your results can suggest what tasks they might excel at, but it doesn't inherently show how to work effectively alongside other people. So it does create self-awareness and team awareness, right? And having this awareness of someone's personal preferences might help you understand why they're doing what they're doing. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how you can apply this. So, and then I'll answer any questions. By the way, if you have any questions, I want you to please put them in the chat, and Jason and I will, or I will answer them. But if you do have a question, please put it in the chat. So a team application, the first thing I'm going to talk about is conflict resolution. By the way, all the details of the team application are located in your resource here. So as I go through all of this, it's all detailed in here, okay? So the first thing I'm going to talk about is conflict resolution. So imagine a team is experiencing interpersonal conflict due to differing work styles. Now compound that by a team that maybe is either hybrid or fully remote, which for many of us, our teams are hybrid, right? There may be certain people, like we may not have the luxury of having everybody in an office all the time, right? So the team is experiencing interpersonal conflicts due to differing work styles. You can use 16 types to understand the root causes of these conflicts. So for example, an ISTJ, an introverted sensing thinking judger, might prefer a structured approach to working, while an ENFP, an extroverted intuitive feeling perceiver, might thrive in a more flexible environment. So we can start to understand where are people plotted. So if we go to the team dashboard, right? Where are people plotted on here? If I'm trying to understand a little bit more about my team, I can start to understand a little bit more. Okay, well, we've got this pretty much balance of extroversion and introversion, right? Are we making sure we're checking in with our introverted team members, making sure they have what they need, making sure we're checking in with them at 2 hours after a meeting because likely they're re-energized and they have some new insights, right? So when we're talking about work style differences, we want to understand, well, is it a person who is a J that's having a hard time working with a person who's a P, right? So again, this assessment is about the individual, right? But we can deduce some things by understanding the makeup of our team. How do we help a judger and a perceiver work together, right? Now, this particular team that we're looking at here, this is our customer team. You've got mostly J's here. So these P's over here may feel a little confined from time to time, right? So we may have to compromise our work style or ask the question to our teams, what can we do differently to be able to collaborate more effectively? What do we have to honor and respect about other people, right? So for example, if we know we've got all these J's and you want to get buy-in from a J and you're a P, you may want to present things in a little bit more of a structured way so that you can get that buy-in, right? So if a team is having, trouble getting aligned, and the P's are trying to get buy-in from some of the J's, some of that structured approach might be a little bit of a push in that right direction. So conflict resolution is one of the areas, and you can kind of just, if you're having trouble, on a team, whether you're an individual contributor, a leader, or you're a learning leader, you might just want to look at this. You do not need to be certified in 16 types to look at this and do a little bit of understanding, like, oh, I've got a team of J's here that's 86% J, and they want structure, and these people are having a hard time, right? You don't need to be a 16 types expert to decipher this by looking at this, right? You can click on any one of these preferences and understand the differences between the two, and you can clearly see how your team lays out to see if you can resolve some conflict. If you have any questions, by the way, please pop it in the chat. We'll be glad to answer it. The next scenario I'm going to share is team building. So again, this is all in your workbook. So imagine you have a newly formed team that needs to build rapport and understand how each other works. So what you might want to do is have people take 16 types if they haven't already. If you're already on Cloverleaf and you've taken 16 types, great. And then maybe look at the results as a team on the Cloverleaf dashboard and facilitate discussions around each member's type, focusing on strengths and potential challenges in collaboration. This will give you a forum for creating mutual understanding and respect. So this might look like an hour-long team meeting where, hey, extroverts, if you're an extrovert on our team, share what it's like in your experience of a team meeting. Okay, great. Introverts, what is it like for in your experience? How do you experience a team meeting? So you're fostering understanding, right? And so again, you don't need to be an expert. You could just be asking questions to the different types. Okay, who are our N's? Okay, great. Right. What is your biggest struggle when we're trying to consume information, right? Because that second letter is about how we consume information, right? So okay, excellent. So there's some technical questions in there, Jason. If you could also address some of those. I do want to speak to in 16 types what we call midline results. So what does that mean? So on your individual dashboard, if you go to your individual dashboard, I'm just going to hop on to mine. Actually, mine is right here. Okay, so usually there will be a score here, or you will see a slider here. So if you have, for example, if someone is like a 52 on extroversion, right, versus like, I think I'm like a 96 or a 97, right, they may experience more flexibility. We call it like being able to recreate, right, in the opposite, right? So the closer you are to the midline, the easier it is for you to flex into either type. So someone who's, for example, a 52 in extroversion is likely more of what we call an ambivert. And what that means is it's based on the situation. So a person who's midline for extroversion might be extroverted in certain situations with certain people and might be introverted in certain situations with different people, right? And so it just offers the opportunity to flex more. So for example, if someone is a 52, but they're a judger, or 53, even 55, they may have more ease in adopting a more fluid approach as opposed to being a 95 in J, right? So if you look at your individual scores, you can kind of get a sense of the flexibility of that, right? Hey, Jessica. Hey, Jessica Rosario. Yours is 50, right? So that means you have that ability. You're right in the middle. You have that ability to flex on either side. So again, conflict resolution and you're having a work style problem, or you have a new team that's coming together. Does anyone have any other questions about 16 types or the application of it on a team that if you want to ask, please pop it in the chat. I want to give you the opportunity. Or do you possibly have another way you use 16 types in the past? I want you to feel free to share that in the chat as well. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds if you want to share anything. We're gonna keep hi. So a general explanation of the purpose of each assessment. Sure, that's a great question. There is no, I'll tell you right now, there's no one order to do the assessments. But I will answer your third question. You can compare any assessment versus a specific person you deal with. So there's no one way to do it. If there's more of a, do you want to do it one at a time, or do you want to give people the assessments all at once? That's really a personal preference. So if you want to learn more about each assessment, if you go to My Assessments, and if you click on the little question mark right next to all of these, so I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to open it in a new tab. It's going to open up 16 types and all of the information in about 16 types. And you're going to see additional articles down here as well. The other thing I want to add is the Help Center. And if you could put the link to the Help Center, Jason, in the chat. So the Help Center, I call it the More Than Help Center. There is so much in here. If you go to the My Assessments, what you're going to see, and you may want to bookmark this page, what you're going to see is all the behavioral assessments and then all the articles related to each assessment. So you can get there from the question mark on My Assessments, or you can get there through My Assessments. Now, if you're looking to compare yourself on an assessment with someone that you work with, you could go to their page and compare yourself, or you could go to your team page. So I can pull up 16 types right here, and I can pull up myself, right? And I can pull up, where's Jason? Jason, where are you? And Jason. So me and Jason work together. I can change the assessment. I can pull up DISC, right? So we both have to have taken the assessment in order to be able to compare ourselves. And so you can do that on the team dashboard, or if I were to go to Jason's profile, I could also see myself compared to him as well, right? Really, really good questions. Excellent questions. Okay, awesome. All right, great. So someone asked, what if any result feels off? Do I recommend taking the assessment several times? So here's why I don't recommend repeated taking of assessments. This is just behavioral science. When people take assessments over and over again, they will increase their bias and they will answer what they think they want to be perceived as, and it's not going to be accurate. So if something really seems off, I would wait until you're in your sort of midline state, right? You're not stressed, you're not in the midst of giant change, you're not, going through, you're not unwell, like you have a cold or something and you're not feeling, up to it. I would make sure you're in your most calm, neutral state and take the assessment. Okay. And I would not recommend repeating it over and over again. And then I would look at the aspects, especially of Enneagram. Remember, your wing is sort of your second Enneagram type. I would look at the assessment in depth, maybe discuss it with someone, but I don't recommend repeated over and over again, because it will likely just create results that are a little bit, that have your own bias in it as well. Okay, so we're going to hop into DISC. Really great questions. So DISC was actually designed in the field of organizational psychology way back, and I think it was like the early 1900s. And it was initially designed for trying to understand teams in the workplace. So it's one of the older assessments that was actually specifically designed for the workplace. So it describes behavioral and interpersonal interaction. So if someone knows their DISC type, they know how they prefer to approach problems as part of a team. And usually your function and your role has something to do with it. So for example, I was working with a group of architects and they were all pretty high in C. And conscientiousness, people that are high in C are all about quality and accuracy. And I really want the architects who build the buildings that I walk into to be high in C. So sometimes your function and your role will also give way to how you show up. You could also be in a completely other team. You could leave a company, be in a whole different team for 6 months, and your DISC results may shift because it is a team behavioral assessment. It is not just about me as a person. It's me given this organizational context, given this role, with this group of people. So people that are high in D, who embody this style, they focus on results. They're the people that get things over the finish line. They're motivated by competition. They may exude confidence. People that are high in influence usually are open, collaborative. They value connectedness and relationships. They emphasize persuading and influencing others. People that are high in I are not only great at creating connection inside a team, they're also good at getting the message out there. So if our department needs buy-in across functions, you want to put an I as the person who's going to be the messenger, because they're going to be a really great ambassador for whatever your team is up to. People that are high in S, everybody needs a good S on their team. They're the people who are dependable. They're the glue. They appreciate harmony and making sure everybody has some support. The S is always going to give you the notes to the meetings you missed. These are your support people. And your high Cs are the people that you want to be the eyes before anything goes out to a customer or anything goes out for final release. They are focused on competency, accuracy, quality, and expertise. So this helps teams better understand how to interact with different work styles and how to leverage the talents of others. So for example, I have a lower C score, right? So I know that there's some folks that have a much higher C score than me. So I'm going to tap into them when I want someone to pick up the holes, when I want someone to see the things that I may have missed, because I'm kind of more big picture. So in terms of team interaction, again, understanding disk types helps individuals know how to approach these problems as a team. And this enables productive conversations and leveraging diverse strengths. So how do we apply this to teams? So this is in your resource in detail, but I'm first going to talk about sales and customer service. So imagine you want to improve interactions with clients and customers. So what you might do is use DISC to train team members in adapting their style to different customer types. For example, a person who's high in C may need to be more personable with influence customers, right? So if I'm a high C and I'm trying to get buy-in or sell to a high I might have to create more rapport before I go into a detailed numbers, data presentation. I might have to create more connection, right? While a dominance type should focus on delivering results to like-minded clients. Now, what I consider is, if you want to practice this, if you want to practice with your team, how do we cater to different types? Now, you won't know everybody's type who you're interacting with, but you can kind of tell. A C is going to ask you a ton of questions. An I is going to start some small talk with you, right? A D is going to ask you, what's the bottom line result, right? So what you might consider is doing mock sales presentations where C's have to sell to I's and vice versa, and D's have to sell to S's and vice versa. You have the type being presented to give feedback on what worked or didn't work. So for example, if I'm the C and the I is presenting to me and they didn't give me enough detail for me to make a decision, I might say, hey, I would have liked to see X, or I would have liked to see Y. So doing this type of mock exercise, and even if you want to do this as an internal exercise, your department or your team may have to sell an idea or a concept to a person or a team that is the opposite type as well. So this can work for internal and external, trying to get buy-in or trying to sell someone on an idea, a product, a service, or trying to kind of launch an idea within an organization. So this is an excellent team building and sort of team communication customization exercise that you can use to help the people on your team speak into the different types that they may be interacting with. The next thing is around performance reviews. So this is around conducting effective performance reviews and providing effective feedback. So you might, if you're a person who has to give feedback, right, you might use this to tailor feedback to each team member's style. So a person who's an S might appreciate a supportive and detailed review, while someone who's a D might prefer concise and direct feedback. People that are strong in I might appreciate some rapport building to start the conversation, where a person who's a C might more appreciate an agenda of, here are the topics we're going to discuss right up front. So this allows you, this sort of personalized approach can enhance the impact of performance reviews. Now, I say the word performance review conversation, nobody's like super excited to have that, but the more customized, even if it's a good review, right? It just feels a little bit sometimes robotic, and it depends on what your system is, right? So obviously we know that performance is an ongoing conversation and not an event. But if you can customize your approach, you can make these conversations much more palatable, and you can use DISC results to plan that. Any other questions about DISC? Again, we're just giving you some scenarios of how you can really customize and support your team with some of these assessments. Any questions about DISC? Or do you have any other ways that you use DISC that have been successful that you would love to share? Especially some of our coaches and consultants on here, if you have ways that you've creatively used DISC or scenarios that you feel passionate about DISC being effective in, we definitely want to hear from you. So please pop it in the chat. We'd love to share it. Yes, awesome. We're using Cloverleaf. So Ellen asked this question. We're using Cloverleaf in our leadership training workshops. We're not having a lot of success getting participants to take 3 assessments and create a team before coming. Any ideas on how we can get more participation before the workshop starts? So I will tell you honestly, Ellen, I incorporate Cloverleaf into a 6-month coaching skill training program that I lead. And I introduce it at session 1 because I want to enroll them in the idea. I want to explain what Cloverleaf is. The problem is if people don't know what Cloverleaf is or haven't had an introduction to it or understand the purpose of it, people just think it's another assessment and they think, oh, I've taken that already. So I like to do a full 10-15 minutes on why Cloverleaf is different and how it can help you. I like to demonstrate all the features, and then I invite them to take the assessments between session 1 and session 2. So it is a little challenging to get people do it. The other thing you can do, if you're only having a finite workshop with people, I recommend having a virtual pre-meeting and doing what I just said. Have a meeting, demonstrate Cloverleaf, show them what it is, invite them to take the assessments and give them a deadline by when you want them to take them, but actually have a conversation with them. Don't just send an email or invite them to Cloverleaf. People that have no knowledge of what Cloverleaf is, it's so innovative and it's so different. They might just think, well, this is DISC and I've taken that before. So anytime you're launching anything new, if you can have a conversation and show people what the tool is beforehand, I think that you can increase your buy-in. That's a great question, Mike. Thank you for sharing that. What's in it for me to take the time to do these assessments and answer that question for every different individual? So your answer should address the different personalities value. That's a really good point, Mike. I really appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, that's a really great point. That's why I like some of the pre stuff of doing that. Lisa shared, repeat about what DISC being relative to the people on your team. Yes, so your DISC type may shift based on the chemistry and roles on your team. So let's just say that all of a sudden you got put in charge of an initiative and you are corralling, people and projects and ideas, and you're leveraging maybe some skills that you haven't been in the past. Your D score may raise, right? But you'd have to be doing that for 4 or 6 months, right? So depending on what you're accountable for, what you're actually doing, your DISC type can change, right? Awesome, great. Kelly shared, I send some reflective questions and let them know we'll talk about the questions at the session. So that's also a good way to prep people for taking that as well. The other thing you can do if you want people to take assessments before a workshop is if they have taken it in the past, give them the option to input their results, because then they don't have to take it. So if they know they're an ENFJ, great, have them put their results in, and that's fine too. Yes, Mike, I do the kickoff meeting 100%. I only do kickoff meetings. I do not send anyone a Cloverleaf invitation blind. I do a kickoff meeting. I demonstrate the tool. And so nobody gets an invitation until I've spoken to them and I've demonstrated it and they understand what it is. So yes. All right. Awesome. Tanya is also sharing some brilliance in the chat. Tanya is a Gallup strengths coach. The power shows up most when you do teams or manager employee conversations. It's easy buy-in after that. Yeah, so if you can get in with the team leader first, that would be great. That would be awesome. And if you would like, we have a little outline for how to do that kickoff meeting. If you would like that, I'm going to invite you to just email me for it and I will just send it out. If that's something that you want, I don't want to blast everybody who doesn't want it. If that's something that you want, Jason, could you just pop my email in the chat, Stephanie at cloverleaf.me. If that's something that you want, that just send me a quick email and I will send you the outline to that kickoff meeting. So just send me a direct email and I will make sure that you get it. Okay. Okay, so we're going to move into Enneagram, and I'm talking about Enneagram in the context of teams and also triads. So the Enneagram personality assessment determines personality type by identifying an individual's primary motivator through the head, the heart, and the gut. So when I want to just point out in your individual results in Enneagram, you will have your main type, you'll have your wing, which I like to call your Enneagram spice. So I read that somewhere a long time ago and I'm like, I like that. So if I made you a pumpkin pie and I omitted the cinnamon, you might say this is nice pie. But if I made you a second one, I added some cinnamon, some nutmeg, you'd be like, oh, there's another dimension to this. So it's that added dimension to who you are. You pull it in when you need to. It's always to the left or the right of your result. So I'm a 7, so I am a 6 wing. A 7 can only be an 8 or a 6 wing. A 9 can only be an 8 or a 1 wing. It's always to the left or the right. Your Enneagram growth is the behaviors that usually show up to support you when you're going through growth or change, right? So it's showing you how we are complex human beings. We might show up like me, who's enthusiastic. I could have a conversation with a piece of toast. All of a sudden, I'm going through growth or change and I become a little bit more introspective and start journaling, right? So it's just what happens, right? Your Enneagram stress represents the behaviors that will crop up when you are when you're stressed out. And if you stay there too long, you can go into burnout. So I'll share with you in a minute how you can apply this to teams. But I just want to make sure you understand that the way the Enneagram results are laid out are based upon we are complex human beings that are impacted by the world around us, and we're not always one way, right? So in terms of the triads, though, when we're talking about teams, the triads represent how we make decisions, our decision-making lens. So for example, the gut triad, types 8, 9, and 1, they use their instinct to make decisions, right? They follow their gut. Whereas the heart triad, 2, 3s, and 4s, they use their feelings to make decisions. But it's not like, oh, they're being emotional. It's about, they think about decisions and they think about how will this impact that group of people. So they're going to ask questions that bring empathy and compassion to a conversation. If we make this decision, how does that impact those people? They want to make sure that it's, creating an environment that's inclusive, that this decision is going to impact people in a certain way. They want to know. The head triad uses their thoughts to make decisions. So the head triad is going to slow down someone in the gut triad. They're going to say, hey, wait a minute, gut triad person, what about all this data? What if this goes wrong? They're going to poke holes, and they're going to do that because they're longing for certainty, right? They want that certainty. And so when a team has a little bit more of an even distribution of people in the triads, they tend to have access to a good decision-making process. So I'm going to hop on to our team dashboard here. There is amazing information right in app, right? And so if you notice, we're pretty balanced. This is the customer team. We're pretty well balanced. We've got a good group of people. We have representation from everyone in every type and Enneagram. But if you click right on here, you can get the overview of the triad. You can see who's in the triad. You can get the strengths of that triad, the blind spots of that triad. And if you're not in that triad and you need to collaborate with that person, you can really start to understand a little bit more about what you need to do to customize your communication. So it's a wonderful, wonderful content right in Cloverleaf's app to understand a little bit more about Enneagram. So this Enneagram helps you to optimize collaboration. So knowledge of what's motivating people. So every single type has a motivator. And if you click on another person's profile, you can understand a little bit more about their type. If you click on that little question mark by the assessment, you can understand all the types. So when you know people's motivators, it can aid you in customizing communication and approaches for better team collaboration. So I'm going to share with you some applications for teams, especially if you have a team who's going through change. I'm going to invite you to really consider using Enneagram for this. So imagine the team is undergoing significant changes and needs to adapt. You want to use Enneagram to support team members through change. So a type 6 who's a loyalist, might need extra reassurance, while a 3, an achiever, might focus on opportunities that the change presents. So tailoring your support based on Enneagram can facilitate smoother transition. But here's my hint. Go to a person's Enneagram profile and read about their type or behaviors during their growth, right? So if I go to my assessments here, go and read their Enneagram growth type. This is going to tell you what their behaviors are when they're going through growth or change. So it's actually going to help you understand how to support that person. Another thing you could do as a team to help people navigate change is invite each person on the team to go to their Enneagram growth type from their individual profile that I just showed you and come to the team meeting to share 3 best practices they could use to support themselves during growth or change. What support could help them during that growth or change, right? So invite people to go and do that pre-work before a meeting and say, hey, what I really need during growth or change is more time to reflect. So I might need some time to process a conversation with my leader or a team member, right? So have people state what their needs are so that you can know how to support them. It's going to pop into the chat. Okay, awesome. Oh, I love that. Andrea said, when I talk about Enneagram elements, I compare it to building a sundae. Yes, that is wonderful. I love little analogies like that. I use pie, you use sundae. We're all about dessert. So whatever you can do to help people understand is great. The next thing I'm going to talk about, remember I talked to you about if you go into your Enneagram stress. So if you're in your Enneagram stress right here, so go read your Enneagram stress behavior. If you stay there too long, right, you will go into burnout, right? So you will experience burnout. So if you have team members who are experiencing high levels of stress and burnout, or if it's you that's experiencing high levels of stress and burnout, use Enneagram to identify stress triggers and coping mechanisms for each type. So for example, a type 1 might experience stress from unmet expectations and needs to practice self-compassion, while a 9 might need help asserting themselves to avoid burnout. So go to a person's Enneagram profile and read about their types or behaviors during stress. If you want to do a team meeting, if your team's stressed out, invite each person to the team to review their Enneagram stress type from their individual profile and come to a team meeting to share 3 best practices they could use to mitigate stress to avoid burnout. Staying in your Enneagram stress behaviors can lead to burnout. Maybe someone needs to, pull away from a conversation. Maybe they need to switch tasks to help them, maybe not be stressed out by something. So this is, if you want to serve, your team's sort of well-being, this is a great way if you notice it's a stressful time, or if you're about to head into a stressful time. So if your organization has a busy time and you're about to head into it, this is a great team building activity. Hey, everyone, go to your Enneagram stress behaviors, share with the team what those stress behaviors are, and maybe exchange ideas of how you can support yourself. Any questions about Enneagram? Any questions? Questions about Enneagram? Pop in. Yes, the recording of this is going to be in this. The recording will be in this resource right here. We'll get that in by tomorrow, probably. All right, if you have questions, pop them in. Jason and I can answer them. We're going to move into the strengths assessment. So some of you may be using VIA strengths, some of you may be using Clifton strengths, right? So I'm going to just share very high level, right? A little, I'm going to speak in terms of Clifton strengths, but a lot of Clifton strengths and VIA strengths, how they show up on the team dashboard is very similar. So if you go to your team dashboard, so you'll notice there's categories of strengths, right? And then there is a team strengths list. It's very similar. So what this number represents is the number of people who have that strength is their top 5. So you're going to see your active strengths and your inactive strengths. Same thing with via or via strengths. You're going to see there's 6 categories, okay? And there is a similar chart, and then there is a similar list. Active strengths, inactive strengths. This number represents the number of people who have that strength in their top 5. Okay, so when we're talking about Clifton strengths, we're identifying both Clifton strengths and bias strengths will identify key strengths at both the individual and the team level, like I showed you. So this knowledge aids in developing dormant strengths and using key strengths for appropriate projects, especially during growth or challenges. So particularly within Clifton strengths, we're identifying strengths within certain areas. So one is around strategic thinking. How do you absorb, think about, and analyze information and situations? And so the strategic thinking strengths are in green. So those green strengths, if you have them in your top 5, so you might want to even look at your own assessment. So if I look at my own assessments right here, and I see my Clifton strengths, you're going to notice that almost all of my strengths, right, are in this category, right? And I've got positivity in this category as well. So that you'll be able to color, you can see your own strengths here, your top 5 and your own individual profile. It's similar with VIA as well, right? So I've got my strengths here all color coded. So in Clifton strengths, we have strategic thinking. How do you absorb, think about, and analyze information and situations? The influencing strengths answer how you influence others. Your relationship building strengths answer how do you build and nurture strong relationships? And the executing strengths answer how you actually make things happen. So similarly in VIA strengths, there's categories, right? And there's groups of strengths in each of those categories. And so you will measure, everyone will get their top 5 when you're taking any of those assessments. So by integrating Clifton strengths or VIA strengths, teams can gain valuable insights into individual strengths, leading to more effective collaboration, improved communication, a stronger overall team dynamic. I know I have some Gallup strengths coaches on here, so if you can want to pop in the chat and share anything about team application, please feel free. I will share a couple of team applications. One is boosting morale, and I've actually done this with a team before as well. So if you have a team whose morale is low and it's affecting productivity and engagement, you can use strengths assessments to recognize and celebrate each team member's strengths. For example, recognizing a team member with positivity can help boost overall team morale, while someone with includer can ensure everyone feels valued and part of the team. Celebrating strengths fosters a positive and motivated team environment. Now, a variation on this is the leader can start this. So I can say, hey, Jason, I want to acknowledge you for positivity. And then maybe Jason looks at someone else's strengths and acknowledges, and here's why. And I give an example. And now you just do a chain of acknowledgement. Now Jason is going to pick a top strength of someone else and acknowledge. And then you just keep going. So a leader can start this, and you can create this sort of acknowledgement chain, and that can kind of really create a bit of a morale boost, right? So it just means going to someone's profile, picking out a strength that you appreciate or that you've seen in action, and creating a little bit of an informal recognition exercise. You can also use this assessment for role assignment. Let's say the team needs to assign roles for an upcoming project or initiative. You can use these insights to assign roles that align with each team member's strengths. And for example, a team member with developer can mentor and support others, and someone who's got a strength of focus can drive the team towards the end goal. Proper role assignment ensures that tasks are completed efficiently and effectively. You can also ask people if they'd like to develop strengths that are not part of their 5 strengths, and you can help create stretch assignments with people, and that's more on an individual level. All right. Any other questions about these strengths assessments? Any other questions? I know we have some strengths folks on here, so if you have any hot tips that you would love to share, that would be great. Yes. So Tanya, that's a great point. You can also see where the team doesn't have strength and bridge the gap, right? That's a really good call out. So if you see the missing strengths, right? So the inactive strengths on a team, So for example, I see a lot of teams that have these temperament strengths and bias strengths that are inactive. So, okay, so we have humility and self-regulation that are inactive. What best practice do we have to maybe create in order to make sure that we are self-regulating and that we are leading, with humility, right? So you can open up conversations around that as well. Jason, you can answer that in the chat. Katie, Jason will answer that for you. That's a technical question that will get answered for you. Okay, lastly, we have instinctive drives. So this measures innate drives and motivation. So ID reveals why individuals behave the way they do and what they need to do to be at their best. And so I'm going to just hop on for a minute right here. Okay, so if you look at instinctive drives, I want to just help you understand how to read this. So these thick lines are the lines of neutrality. So for example, I'm going to take the drive to improvise, right? Anybody who's below this line avoids improvising. Anybody who's above this line tends to improvise more, right? So when the majority of the team is below, that means you avoid this drive. And there's some really great content within the application, which will help you understand some strategies for managing this, right? And so it'll tell you a little bit about what's going on with this team, how this instinctive drive, how avoiding this instinctive drive impacts this team and how they interact. Okay. And so everybody has a score in each area. If they're above the line, they use this instinctive drive. If they're below the line, they're not driven by this. Okay. So this helps to identify strengths and gaps and enables strategies to leverage drives for optimal team performance. So for example, when I see teams that are low on improvise, here's what I ask them. Is there anywhere where increased brainstorming or increased sort of ideating might help you? Because sometimes teams that avoid improvising, they're also usually I and J of 16 types. So let's go back and let's verify that. Oh, yes. So this team that doesn't like to improvise, they love structure. They are high in J. So what happens with teams that are high in J or they avoid improvise is that sometimes they rush to structure. They rush to plan. They rush to execution before they've had some of that creativity and some of that ideating because they want to feel like they're moving forward. And so sometimes you just need to do a soft pause. So in terms of leveraging ID with your team, this is a team application, project management and task assignment. So imagine the team needs to manage a complex project with multiple tasks. To assign tasks based on team members' instinctive drives. For example, a team member with a strong drive to verify can handle quality control. So I want the person who's who's maybe an 8 or a 9 or 7, 8, 9 on verify. I want them to be the last pair of eyes before something goes out the door. This can ensure accuracy and attention to detail, while someone who is improvise, right, who's higher on improvise, can focus on generating innovative ideas and solutions. So I might take my improvisers and I might leverage them at the beginning of a project, and I'm going to make sure those verifiers are there at the end. So again, you can open up conversations with teams around some of this. And maybe someone says, hey, I want to stretch myself a little. I want to be part of that last look at the end. And I want to see what my perspective can bring. All right.